When I was doing my hospital chaplaincy training in seminary, I was assigned to a unit where people tended to have longer stays than in other parts of the hospital. While there, I met an 80-something-year-old patient I'll call Arlene. Arlene was short and bent, with a gravelly voice, a cloud of dark gray hair and quick, cheerful eyes. She liked to get up every few hours and wander through the halls. She'd poke her head into the rooms of fellow patients, introducing herself to the newbies and checking in on the multiple-day veterans like herself. "How you doing, honey?" you'd hear her ask as she paused in someone's doorway. Now, coming from someone else, these rounds might have felt pushy or nosy, but Arlene had a gentle way of sensing the receptivity of others and connecting with those who hungered for some comfort or companionship. And it seemed to me that she was not in this for any kind of glory or self-aggrandizement, although I'm sure she found a deep joy in being spiritually helpful to others in this way. Really, during her stay on that unit, she became a sort of self-appointed on-site chaplain, willing to serve those around her however she could. Compare this approach with James and John in today's gospel story. Jesus has just finished telling the disciples for the third time that in Jerusalem he will be mocked, spit upon, flogged, killed, and then raised again 3 days later. He has just finished saying this. And immediately, James and John come to him saying, "Hey, when you're in your glory, can we sit in your right and left hand?" Glory? Who said anything about glory? Jesus was talking about getting crucified at the hands and for the sake of the world. So he says, do you know what you're asking for? Do you really want to drink from my cup and be baptized with my baptism? Oh yeah, James and John say, we are totally down with that. As if they haven't heard a word Jesus was saying. So busy were they imagining some triumphal banquet, some coronation ceremony, when their Messiah finally gets down to Jerusalem to finish kicking some Roman rear end. So James and John are still living in the ordinary earthly world, the world you and I spend most of our time in, where power is finite and has to be seized when it's available. In this world, there are only 2 spots next to Jesus, and the Zebedee brothers are not above a little backroom dealing to secure them. And it's clear that the rest of the disciples live in this world as well, because they get upset when they hear what James and John have been trying to pull off. Is no one listening to what Jesus is saying? He's going to Jerusalem to humble himself, to pour out his life for others. That's what this whole thing is about. Not power and glory, but service. Whoever would become greatest among you must be servant of all. Now look, I'm not trying to bash James and John. Really, they hold up a pretty powerful mirror to ourselves. It's in our genetic makeup to see the world in the way that they do, as a source of finite resources for which we must compete, a place where the powerful win and the winners survive, and where every material benefit is like a barricade against death. Why else would we drive ourselves into debt to buy ever larger houses and stuff them with ever more possessions? Why else would our workplaces be so full of politics and our politics so full of rancor? But as much as we have James and John in us, we also have Arlene, who even in her own ill health found a way to serve others. We have that possibility, that path of servanthood available to us as well. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you which of the two examples leads to deeper joy and fuller living. In grasping for power and influence, James and John create division among the disciples, isolate themselves, and ultimately reduce themselves to cowardice as they flee the scene of Jesus' death, where, ironically, two unnamed bandits take the places James and John have been vying for in today's reading, at Jesus' right hand and left hand. In seeking to serve those around her, by contrast, Arlene connects with others and plugs her life into a purpose that is larger than she is. And in the process, she discovers vibrant, deep living. The relatively new science of happiness confirms this spiritual wisdom, by the way. Psychologists have found that doing things for others creates longer-lasting positive emotions in people than doing things for ourselves. One professor came up with an exercise in which he asked his students to write a letter to someone who had mattered a lot in their lives, but whom they hadn't fully thanked. In the letter, they were supposed to talk about how much the person meant and what a difference he or she had made to them. Then they were instructed to deliver the letter in person and read it out loud. This incredible act of gratitude had a measurable positive effect on the letter writer's sense of well-being even 6 months after they performed this act. I'm not saying that following Jesus and becoming a servant of all is easy. His road to the cross makes that clear. But I am saying that it's life-giving, and that the life it gives can overcome even the grave. That's what the resurrection means. Love triumphs over death every time. Amen.